Hi there, I'm John McAdams, founder of the Big Game Hunting blog. And in this video, I'm going to do a detailed comparison of the 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 Creedmoor cartridges. Now, while hunters and shooters in Europe first embraced the 6.5 caliber over a century ago, it has taken much longer for that caliber to really catch on in North America. However, that is changing fast as more and more Americans discover the advantages of the 6.5 millimeter bore. Now, at this point, the 6.5 Grendel and the 6.5 Creedmoor are probably the most widely adopted 6.5 millimeter cartridges in the United States. Now, though they have similar names and utilize bullets of the same diameter, that's basically where their resemblance ends. Indeed, the designers of each cartridge had very distinct priorities in mind, and they built the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 6.5 Grendel to accomplish very different tasks. So in this episode, I'm going to do a detailed comparison of the 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 Creedmoor in order to help provide some insight into which cartridge will work best for you. As usual, we will begin with the history of these cartridges. Now, as stated previously, the 6.5 Grendel and the 6.5 Creedmoor were each designed to accomplish different goals. For this reason, the story of each cartridge begins in a different place as well, with the .223 Remington and the AR-15 for the 6.5 Grendel, and with the .308 Winchester for the 6.5 Creedmoor. We'll start with the 6.5 Grendel. Now, the M16 rifle and the 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO cartridge got off to a rough start in Vietnam, but modifications to the rifle and ammunition solved most of the problems that plagued that system during the war. However, many still had doubts regarding the stopping power of that little cartridge. These concerns were shared by civilian hunters who adopted the AR-15 and the .223 Remington cartridge during the last couple decades of the 20th century. Now, while the rifle and cartridge worked extremely well for target shooting and predator/varmint hunting, the .223 Remington developed a reputation for poor performance on deer-sized game. However, the AR-15 platform offered a number of advantages to shooters and, not surprisingly, was also very popular in the US. So for this reason, designers set about developing a number of larger bore cartridges that were more powerful than the .223 Remington, but would still function in AR-15 rifles. Among others, this list includes cartridges like the 300 Blackout, the 6.8 Remington SPC, the 450 Bushmaster, the 458 SOCOM, and the 50 Beowulf. Bill Alexander, who was the same guy that developed the 50 Beowulf, also designed the 6.5 Grendel to fit this same need in 2002. By modifying a 6.5 millimeter PPC case, which is itself descended from the 220 Russian and 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridges, Alexander was very successful in building an efficient and sweet shooting cartridge that functioned very well in the AR platform. The 6.5 Grendel is also significantly more powerful than the .223 Remington. So while the cartridge did struggle to gain widespread acceptance in the shooting and hunting communities for a variety of reasons, the 6.5 Grendel was very successful in accomplishing its original goal of improving upon the .223 Remington while still performing well in an AR-15. On the other hand, the 6.5 Creedmoor got its start in the competition shooting realm. Dave Emery and Dennis DeMille began work developing a new cartridge in the early 2000s that they hoped would provide an edge in high-power rifle competition shooting, which had long been dominated by the .308 Winchester. In short, they wanted a new cartridge that was just as accurate as the .308, but with less recoil, less wind drift, and a flatter trajectory. With these goals in mind, they modified a .30 Thompson center case to shoot .264 caliber bullets. When all was said and done, the cartridge had a relatively large case capacity, optimized for use with 4350 class propellants. It could also accommodate very long, heavy, high ballistic coefficient bullets without intruding into the powder column, and to top it all off, the cartridge still fit in a short-action magazine. Now, just like Emery and DeMille hoped, the new cartridge had less recoil, a flatter trajectory, and more resistance to wind deflection than the .308 Winchester. Unveiled in 2008, the new 6.5 Creedmoor was a big hit among competition shooters from the very beginning. Now, as more and more people started to appreciate the advantages of the cartridge, the 6.5 Creedmoor has also started to gain widespread acceptance for big game hunting as well. All right, now let's talk about the relative sizes of the 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, aside from the fact that they both use .264 caliber bullets, there are some big differences between the two cartridges. So first, the 6.5 Grendel is considerably shorter than the 6.5 Creedmoor. This is because the Grendel was originally designed for use in an AR-15, which can only accommodate cartridges up to 2.26 inches long. With an overall length of 2.26 inches, the 6.5 Grendel is the maximum size cartridge that will fit in an AR-15. On the other hand, at 2.825 inches long, the 6.5 Creedmoor is much longer and requires a larger rifle that can accommodate a .308 Winchester size cartridge like the larger AR-10. Now second, the 6.5 Grendel has a rim diameter of .441 inches, while the 6.5 Creedmoor has a larger .473 inch rim diameter. So for these reasons, the 6.5 Creedmoor has a much larger case capacity than the Grendel, and it is also loaded to a higher maximum average pressure than the 6.5 Grendel as well, of 62,000 psi versus 52,000 psi. Now, as you might guess by looking at the cartridges themselves, there's a pretty big difference in their ballistics. Now, when comparing the two cartridges, it is important to remember that the 6.5 Grendel was designed to offer better performance out of an AR-15 than the .223 Remington, while the 6.5 Creedmoor was developed to improve upon the .308 Winchester in certain aspects. Now, the designers of both cartridges successfully accomplished those goals, but that also means that there is a big gap in performance between the Grendel and the Creedmoor, just like there is between the .223 Remington and the .308 Winchester. Now, this is apparent when you compare a 123 grain Hornady ELD match load with a .506 BC in 6.5 Grendel to a 120 grain GMX with a .450 BC in a 143 grain ELD X load with a .625 BC in 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, this data is for Hornady factory loads fired from a 24-inch barrel and using a 200-yard zero. Now, due to the significantly larger case capacity of the 6.5 Creedmoor, it can push a heavier bullet at a faster muzzle velocity than the 6.5 Grendel, and a bullet that's basically the same weight, much faster than the 6.5 Grendel. In this case, the 143 grain ELDX is going about 120 feet per second faster than the 123 grain bullet from the Grendel, and that 120 grain GMX is going 345 feet per second faster than the 123 grain bullet. Now, this obviously gives the 6.5 Creedmoor a definite edge in terms of kinetic energy and trajectory. The 6.5 Creedmoor loads have between 8 to 11 inches less bullet drop at 500 yards, and they retain approximately 20 to 50% more energy at that range than the 6.5 Grendel. Indeed, that 143 grain 6.5 Creedmoor load has more energy at 200 yards than the 6.5 Grendel has at the muzzle. Now, that being said, while the Creedmoor has a definite advantage in performance at all practical ranges, the gap in performance between the cartridges is not nearly as large at ranges inside of 300 yards. Now, that same general trend holds true when comparing how much a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind impacts those same 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 Creedmoor loads out to 500 yards. Once again, the 6.5 Creedmoor, especially with that 143 grain ELDX load, outperforms the Grendel in terms of wind drift. However, again, the difference between them narrows considerably inside of 300 yards, especially when we're talking about that lighter 120 grain 6.5 Creedmoor load. Now, things change a little bit when we take recoil into consideration. Now, when comparing those same loads when fired from identical rifles, the 6.5 Grendel has about 30 to 40% less free recoil energy than those two 6.5 Creedmoor loads. Now, that is really saying something too, because the 6.5 Creedmoor is also known for having a fairly mild recoil itself. So with those things in mind, where do we stand with each cartridge? So the 6.5 Grendel and the 6.5 Creedmoor use the same diameter bullets, but the Creedmoor shoots the same weight bullet 300 to 400 feet per second faster than the 6.5 Grendel because it's loaded to a higher pressure and it has a longer and larger case that can simply hold more powder. So for this reason, the 6.5 Creedmoor recoils more, but it has a flatter trajectory, less wind drift, and it carries more energy downrange. The 6.5 Creedmoor is a moderately powerful, relatively flat shooting cartridge that's also pretty resistant to wind drift. Though it does have more recoil than the 6.5 Grendel, the Creedmoor recoil is still noticeably lighter than the .308 Winchester, and most shooters and hunters can still handle it without much trouble. Now, additionally, the 6.5 Creedmoor also has an advantage when it comes to bullet selection. Now, while both cartridges utilize .264 caliber bullets, the 6.5 Creedmoor was specifically designed to utilize very aerodynamic bullets that are heavier and longer. Now, the cartridge typically uses bullet weights in the 95 to 160 grain range, with 120, 129, 140, and 143 grain bullets being the most common. On the other hand, the 6.5 Grendel uses lighter bullets, and it normally tops out around 130 grains, and 120 and 123 grain bullets are the most popular for it. Now, while the Grendel does give up a lot to the Creedmoor in terms of ballistics, this is especially pronounced at longer ranges. The Creedmoor still has a little bit better ballistics inside of 300 yards, but the difference between them is much smaller at closer range. So when all is said and done, the 6.5 Grendel is still powerful enough for hunting medium-sized game at short to moderate range. And if we're being honest with ourselves, the 6.5 Creedmoor is still far from a heavy-hitting cartridge in the same league as something like maybe the 7mm Remington Magnum or the 300 Winchester Magnum. It's really difficult to pick an accuracy winner between the Grendel and the Creedmoor. Now, on one hand, the 6.5 Creedmoor was designed for competition shooting, and it can shoot really long and aerodynamic bullets, like I keep saying, that are more resistant to wind deflection. Now, on the other hand, the 6.5 Grendel also has seen extensive use in the hands of competition shooters, and it has an advantage in the recoil department. So don't underestimate the impact that recoil has on the ability of a person to shoot accurately either. Regardless of how well a given person handles recoil, all other things being equal, they will absolutely shoot better with a milder recoiling rifle. So inside of 300 yards, I'd probably give a little bit of an edge to the 6.5 Grendel. At longer ranges, I would lean more towards the 6.5 Creedmoor, where using high BC bullets becomes more important. In any case, both are capable of absolutely tack-driving accuracy in the right hands. All right, now let's talk about ammo selection. The 6.5 Creedmoor is by far the most popular cartridge. As of 2021, the 6.5 Creedmoor is likely the number 3 most popular centerfire rifle cartridge in the US in terms of raw ammo sales, behind only the .223 Remington and the .308. So it is really popular. So not surprisingly, almost every ammunition manufacturer produces a wide variety of ammo for the 6.5 Creedmoor these days. Now, on the other hand, the 6.5 Grendel is nowhere near as popular as the Creedmoor. Like the 50 Beowulf, the 6.5 Grendel was a proprietary cartridge for a number of years, and none of the big ammo companies produced 6.5 Grendel ammo for a long time. Though it is now SAMI certified, it's still taking a while for the cartridge to make up for lost time. Fortunately, Federal, Hornady, Nosler, and Wolf are all among manufacturers that make 6.5 Grendel factory ammo, in addition to Alexander Arms, which is the original producer, and they still make some as well. So correspondingly, while prices and availability do vary from region to region, the 6.5 Creedmoor is by far the most common and least expensive of the two, at least during normal times. Now, hand loading is very popular for both cartridges, and reloading components are widely available. Now, since they both utilize the same .264 caliber bullets that are also shared by cartridges like the 6.5 Swede, the 6.5 Lapua, the .260 Remington, the 6.5 PRC, and the .264 Winchester Magnum, there's a really good selection of good quality bullets in that bore diameter to choose from. Now let's talk about rifle selection. Once again, the 6.5 Creedmoor is the most widely available of the two, and multiple companies produce good semi-automatic as well as bolt-action rifles chambered in that cartridge. On the other hand, only a few companies make firearms chambered in 6.5 Grendel, though selection is improving. Now, the proprietary nature of the 6.5 Grendel also really hurt rifle development for a long time, as did the fact that the unique rim diameter of the cartridge required shooters to get a new bolt face and magazine in addition to a new barrel. Now, on the other hand, converting a rifle from .308 Winchester to 6.5 Creedmoor is a much simpler process, and many companies have rapidly introduced new lines of 6.5 Creedmoor rifles by simply modifying existing .308 Winchester models. Alexander Arms developed the first rifles in 6.5 Grendel, and it continues to manufacture them. Now, since then, Wilson Combat and a couple of other companies have also started producing modern sporting rifles chambered in that cartridge. And it's also possible to purchase a 6.5 Grendel upper receiver and convert an existing AR-15 to shoot the Grendel cartridge. While there are several semi-auto rifles chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor that you can buy these days, there are even more bolt guns available in the cartridge, like the Ruger American FTW Hunter, Hawkeye Long Range Target and #1 rifles, the Remington Model 700, the Browning X-Bolt, the Nosler M48, Weatherby Vanguard, and the Winchester Model 70. Now, the Ruger American Predator bolt-action rifle is currently manufactured in both 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 Creedmoor as well. But once again, like I said, just like with ammo, 6.5 Creedmoor rifles are generally easier to find and you got a better selection of them. Okay, so which one is right for you? The 6.5 Grendel and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both well designed for hunting thin-skinned, small to medium game animals like pronghorn, feral hogs, mule deer, white-tailed deer, and fallow deer at short to moderate range. Though it's certainly capable of getting the job done under ideal conditions, I would not advise using the 6.5 Grendel for hunting anything bigger than deer though. Now, if you want to use a 6.5mm cartridge for hunting bigger game, then you probably need to go with the 6.5 Creedmoor of these two. With ballistics very similar to the old 6.5 Swede, which Scandinavian hunters have used to take untold numbers of moose over the years, the 6.5 Creedmoor is much better suited for a game like elk and moose. This is primarily because it can use heavier bullets with a higher sectional density than the 6.5 Grendel. Even so, I personally still consider it to be a little on the light side for really big game. If you decide to go that route, it is extremely important to use well-constructed bullets. Be very careful with your shot placement and shot angles that you take, and really concentrate on taking only broadside or very slightly quartering shots, and only take shots at ranges inside 250 yards or so. So do you primarily hunt medium-sized game like deer, feral hogs, or black bear at ranges within 200 yards? Both cartridges will absolutely get the job done if you do your part, and while the 6.5 Creedmoor is definitely more powerful than the Grendel, there's not a gigantic difference between them inside 300 yards. Go with the 6.5 Creedmoor if you want the cheapest or easiest to find ammo or just a more powerful cartridge, or the 6.5 Grendel if you want to hunt with an AR-15 and or if you want to hunt with a lighter recoiling rifle. Now, are you looking for the better cartridge for long-range hunting for game like mule deer or pronghorn in open country where you might need to take a shot at several hundred yards? Both will also work in this role, but I think this is where the 6.5 Creedmoor really shines of these two because it has a flatter trajectory, will drift less in the wind, and it carries a lot more energy out to several hundred yards. Now, do you prefer to use a semi-automatic rifle for hunting or personal defense? Go with the 6.5 Grendel, as there's just many more semi-auto rifles available in this cartridge than the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, are you sensitive to recoil and you need a lower recoiling cartridge? Once again, go with the 6.5 Grendel. Now, do you want the round that's best suited for target shooting out to, say, 1,200 yards or so in a precision rifle? Again, go with the 6.5 Creedmoor, which has a longer practical effective range, and it really stands head and shoulders above the 6.5 Grendel for precision long-range shooting. Now, do you want a hunting cartridge that's well suited for bigger game like caribou, moose, elk, eland, kudu, or red stag? I do consider both to be on the light side, but the 6.5 Creedmoor is clearly the better choice of these two because it just has so much more kinetic energy at all ranges and it can use heavier bullets. Now, as I've stated several times in this episode, the 6.5 Grendel and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both very solid performing rifle cartridges. However, since they were designed with very different goals in mind, the differences between them are pretty big in many respects. So you need to carefully evaluate your needs as a hunter based upon the circumstances you foresee using the cartridge in, get a good hunting rifle chambered in the cartridge you select, learn to shoot it well, use quality ammo, and if you do all of that, it should serve you very well afield. So if you enjoyed this video, then please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click the red subscribe button below to make sure you don't miss out on any of my new videos on hunting gear reviews, cartridge comparisons, and more. Now, for more detailed information on popular hunting cartridges and what they are best suited for, click on the link in the description below or go to huntingguns101.com to get a free ebook I have written on the best hunting calibers. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. Which cartridge do you prefer of these two? The 6.5 Creedmoor or the 6.5 Grendel? What game have you successfully taken with them? Let me know by leaving a comment on this video right now. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and good hunting.